Today on the Topping Show, Twitter cancels Daily Wire, Trump attacks DeSantis, Amazon Alexa recorded kids, Bye Bye Beatty may be saved, SentinelOne stock crashes while Dell rises, Blizzard has a two-faced pride strategy, Walmart has pride merchandise but also Bibles, auto regulators want to implement legal reasoning for auto braking, and Ford recalls 140,000 SUVs. All that and much, much more on the Topping Show. Thank you for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT cybersecurity. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner and need a little assistance, you reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Now, going on to the business part of the podcast, you have SentinelOne having their stock crash by 37% in one day. Now, SentinelOne is a cybersecurity company founded in 2013, and as of this year, they have about 2,100 employees. They are mostly focusing on business segments, so my IT company that I own, we're actually a partner for SentinelOne. They do have a great endpoint, EDR, XDR. There's a lot of acronyms in IT, especially cybersecurity. Rudimentarily speaking, it's a great way to keep your computers free of viruses, as well as your cloud presence. They do a lot of things, but rudimentarily speaking, it's a cybersecurity company. And unfortunately, they're going to have to lay off about 5% of their staff. And again, you're not too surprised to hear why the stock crashed so heavily. They missed the earning expectations. And straight from the CEO, he said, quote, "This is not the best market to operate in for a growth company. What you're seeing is a real-time adjustment from a full-on growth company into a more balanced approach, disciplined growth company," unquote. That's from the CEO, Tomer Weingarten, and that was a speech that he had with investors last week. And he also noted that, quote, "This is not the economy to put the pedal to the metal and run fast. We just want to be more efficient," unquote. Yes, that is very true. But at the end of the day, they also have a very competitively priced product compared to the industry. So there are many endpoint security, endpoint being like an endpoint, think of a laptop or mobile device. It's not in the traditional IT data center. A lot of people know them for their endpoint solution. And they're not the highest priced. They never have been, especially the biggest, more premium brand, or the brand that charges more for their solution, would be CrowdStrike, which is another competitor of theirs. SentinelOne has always been branded as a great ROI. It's a more aggressive price point, still a very good technological solution. So if anything, I would think their business would be thriving right now. But unfortunately, when you look at their marketing resources, in terms of the number of events they put on for prospective new clients, new hires, but you're not seeing a lot of that these days. And that's all publicly facing knowledge as well. Just look at LinkedIn, look at the trends of hiring rates, what types of roles they're looking for. And the main reason that they want to lay off about 5% of their staff is they claim that between reduction in the staff as well as look at facilities, maybe shut down some remote offices, they'll be able to save about $40 million in this fiscal year. So that's a good savings. Although it's also one of those things where their Q1 earning, compared to their earnings, that's really not that much. I know it'll help ease perhaps some shareholder concern. But their fiscal Q1 revenue is $20.9 billion. But is that really enough? And I actually digress. That actually is for Dell, so apologize for that faux pas. But it'll be interesting to see what can SentinelOne do to get back on track. It is a great solution. I know I have clients that really appreciate the technology. Time shall tell to see if they're maybe able to turn things around a little bit. Now, more upbeat technological news, you have Dell completely obliterating their Q1 earnings. Now, their fiscal Q1 revenue came in at $20.9 billion, which is good, but it's also a little concerning because that's about 20% less year over year. So over the same time period last year compared to this time period this year, it's about 20% less. Now, the street consensus was they thought they were going to hit $20.27 billion. So they beat expectations, which, of course, if you're publicly traded, that is the best way to really embolden stakeholder confidence. More investors are going to want to buy in because they see the company's growing. So it's a great sign for the company. Now, they did break down the earnings to show, what areas are a little bit more sluggish. They noted that specifically their infrastructure, so think of, servers, storage, networking. Think of a data center, not the stuff you see in front of you like a laptop, but the data center stuff. Now, that was about $7.6 billion in revenue. Now, that's down 18% compared to Q1 last year. Now, they do claim there is a cliche term called commoditization, where there are people that think there's less and less differences between a server, whether it's manufactured by Dell, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Supermicro, Lenovo, what have you. And because of that public perception, people are looking for, they really don't care about the price in terms of, I should say, the logo that's put on the box, because they're looking for the price point, because the consumer feels that is a commodity. And I blame partially the manufacturers for not putting some more marketing as well as research and development to make theirs more proprietary, more robust. Engineers will tell you which one they think is the best, and there are some that are faster, more reliable than others, but at the end of the day, what matters is the consumer perspective. So that part of the Dell business is down. Now, their storage segment, that did increase, so that's very key. Since you look at the amount of profit that comes from the data center and technology in general, storage is a little bit more, it's a lot more proprietary. There are more startups and new companies in the storage segment of IT than servers, bar infinitely more. I can't think of a single server company that's new. It's been on the market for decades. You basically have the top four. You have Dell, HPE, you have Supermicro, then Lenovo, then depending on your definition of hyperconverged, you could throw in Nutanix, kind of. But there's not a lot of upstarts and new companies starting to sell service. Storage, there's a lot more competition, a lot more innovation, a lot more proprietary data and ways to do things. So it makes sense that part of the business is growing, thankfully. Now, they did also know that their client solutions, now I know from more IT terms, client solutions from Dell's perspective, that is what you and many consumers would consider technology. So think of laptops, printers, monitors, endpoint solutions. Well, I know we said endpoint. That's also where your antivirus goes. But they know that that segment was $12 billion in Q1 revenue. Unfortunately, that was also 23% lower year over year. And there are many reasons for this. A lot of companies are trying to have materials, make them last a little bit longer, as there's a lot of uncertainty. Why go out and spend, $20,000 to $100,000 on a laptop refresh? Refresh being buy new ones and exchange the old ones, whether recycle them or trade them in. If they're technically working okay, and you're worried about payroll, or you're worried about other expenses, or you want to hire some people. So depending on the business model and what the everyday interaction is with the consumer and that product, it might make sense to divert those funds in other areas. So time shall tell to see if Dell is able to continue that growth rate. Again, they beat expectations, and there's a lot of competition these days in IT. Time shall tell to see how they do. Now, other interesting business news, you have Bye Bye Baby. They may be saved. Now, the company was founded by Richard and Jeffrey Feinstein. They were the sons of the Bed Bath & Beyond co-founder, Leonard Feinstein, and they founded that company over in 1996. It was eventually acquired, hopefully, by Bed Bath & Beyond. Now, Bed Bath & Beyond is currently going through bankruptcy. They filed Chapter 11, so they're only open to liquidate assets. So everything from literally the furniture in the stores to the fixtures, their remaining inventory, but also their intellectual property. And there are some people that are interested in Bye Bye Baby, which is a great name, but I still think, in terms of the product, Bye Bye Baby, it's always no joke. I'm surprised Planned Parenthood didn't buy that name. But, I don't know, it's a weird name to have for a store that is known for selling things for babies, not babies that are going away. Nevertheless, they sell baby accessories, pretty much everything you possibly need for a baby, which was a brilliant marketing move, because at the time, having a store that specialized in that, and at that time in the 90s, all the rage were specific stores, so stores that specialized in one subject matter. There weren't a lot of stores going out trying to be the Walmarts of the world that had a little bit of every category, from sporting goods to baby gear to food to bicycles, what have you. So at the time, it was a brilliant idea, and they were successful for many years. Now, that seems to be something that they might be able to profit off of. So there's a couple of companies that are bidding for that intellectual property. And interestingly enough, one of the bidders actually wants to keep the stores open. Well, at least 75% of those stores, which would be great for the employees. They might be able to keep those jobs, make consumers, I'm sure, appreciate having a brick and mortar in those instances. whether you're a mom in the middle of the night that needs an extra widget for the baby, or dad who just needs to help out the mom. I would think that there would be a good demand for spontaneous purchases or impulse purchases, as I would guess there's a lot of variables that come when you raise a baby and unknowns where things pop up and you just need something, as opposed to someone like myself where I pretty much know exactly what I'm going to need every week in terms of groceries, and I buy clothing every like 6 to 7 years, so that's really not a thing I have to worry about. But another interesting idea. Now, another bidder is actually wanting to just buy their intellectual property, so just the name Bye Bye Baby and the website, their domain, and their trademark. And that particular company is called Baby List, which makes sense. It sounds like a registry or like a list of stuff you need for babies, and they're a online direct-to-consumer company. So it'll be interesting to see. Personally, I hope the store's able to stay open. I hope the bidder that wants to keep 75% of the stores open, because that would help a lot of people keep those jobs. So that's my 3 cents. I think that'd be good for, that'd be my preference of, who actually wins the bidding war. Now, other interesting business news, you have Amazon Alexa. Turns out it was recording kids, and they're deciding to settle a lawsuit. Now, the Federal Trade Commission, also known as the FTC, because acronyms, everyone likes to sound smart, they settled a lawsuit against Amazon over the company's alleged failure to delete recordings of children when they should have. Now, the regulator know that Amazon will pay $25 million for violating the federal child privacy laws, which that is a joke in terms of Amazon being quite literally a multi-billion-dollar company. That they probably spend more on toilet paper for the offices than $25 million a year. So that really is a non-fine in my opinion. But there are a lot of people that don't realize, well, especially not IT people, that those things are always on. There was an article a couple months ago about a Roomba, or I think it was a Roomba, with a camera actually recorded a woman without her clothing on. Again, technology is double-edged sword. Always assume it's working against you, like the Terminator. Some say I'm paranoid about things going bad or malicious things with IT. I say, no, I'm not. I just work in cybersecurity, and I know what people are capable of, and many times it's not good things. So in this case, again, those things are always recording, and again, that's not your property. So it blows my mind how people don't realize, if they have Amazon Alexa devices, those cameras and all that crap, all of that video, so let's say you have it in your house, it's in your living room, it's recording you eating spaghetti or whatever Americans eat these days, and so you have the physical camera, so you own that piece of hardware. You paid $100 or whatever for that little white camera doodad. That camera's connected to your internet, so that goes to the internet. That goes to Amazon's data centers, going back to the conversation earlier with IT, where their server and their storage devices, they all record and store that data. That's not your data. That's Amazon's data. It's very similar to those awkward situations where, do you really own a Tesla? Well, you own the hardware of it, but you don't own the software. You can't do the maintenance on it. So with all these recording devices, that's not your data. And also, people should realize, the U.S. government has realized this, and police are using that in investigations. And they're sending subpoenas to Amazon and successfully getting data back from them. So people are quite literally sending themselves to jail in some instances because they don't realize, oh wait, the police could just take that because it's not my property. So again, read the terms and conditions, or at least browse them, or skimmy read it, I think they used to say, or skippy read it. Correct me in the comments, the little term that people used to use for the speeding reading. But the issue is, it's not your data. And data is the most valuable thing on the planet these days. So you're basically paying to have someone spy on you. A very foreign concept. People in the 80s, decades ago, Americans would have thought that's preposterous. Americans would never pay to have someone invade their privacy, but unfortunately, people are more often than not trading convenience for a lack of rights, more and more. Now, there are apparently some ways you could disable this. Apparently. Now, in order to disable this, you have, in the Amazon Alexa enabled devices like the Amazon Echo, you have to open up the Alexa app on your smartphone or tablet, go to the settings, go to the Alexa privacy, go to the manage your Alexa data, and then you could choose how long to save recordings and select don't save recordings and hit confirm. Now that apparently will delete past recordings in the Alexa privacy section. Also, you have to include your voice history and history of detected sounds. Again, these things only work because they're always listening. It's just just conceptually, that makes sense to the average person, I would think. The only way they can hear you say their name is if the microphone's always on. There's no other way it would work. So they're quite literally always on, always recording. Personally, I'm a fan of analog technology, so I have a car with 3 pedals, also known as a stick shift. But I digress. I'm also recording this on a laptop, obviously, and putting it on the internet, which I don't own the servers. YouTube owns those servers, which is why I'll probably upload this on Rumble and other platforms in the future, including Twitter as well. But just goes to show, be careful who owns your data, and really read those terms and conditions, because more often than not, it's not yours. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Can't thank you enough for liking, subscribing, and commenting. All those things greatly help the channel grow and develop. We really appreciate the feedback. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone to stay safe and fight the good fight.